For most people, ending a relationship, whether it's with a friend, family member, coworker, or partner, is messy. There's second-guessing, there's guilt, and there's the temptation to go back. But for the INFJ, when they reach the point of a door slam, it's different. This isn't a heat-of-the-moment decision. It's a choice that has been brewing for a long time, often months or even years, and by the time it happens, there's no looking back. The INFJ door slam is more than just blocking someone's number or cutting off communication. It's an emotional and psychological closing of the door, permanently. They have decided that this person will no longer have access to their energy, emotions, or trust. And while outsiders might see this as cold or extreme, to the INFJ, it is a deeply considered and necessary act. INFJs are naturally compassionate and patient. They give people many chances, often overlooking flaws or mistakes, because they understand the complexity of human behavior. They see potential and hope for change. This is why reaching the point of a door slam is so significant. It means the INFJ has not only recognized that the relationship is beyond repair, but also that staying connected would harm them more than letting go. This decision doesn't come from anger. In fact, by the time the door slam happens, the INFJ has usually processed their emotions and found a sense of calm resolve. They've weighed the history of the relationship, the repeated patterns of hurt, and the likelihood of things improving. Once they conclude that nothing will change, the decision becomes final. Some people imagine that cutting someone off like this would lead to regret later. After all, what if the person changes? What if the situation improves? But INFJs rarely feel that kind of doubt. That's because the door slam isn't impulsive. It's the end result of a long internal journey. By the time the INFJ closes the door, they've already given every chance they could. In this video, we're going to explore 6 reasons why INFJs never regret the door slam. Each reason reveals not only the practical side of the decision, but also the emotional clarity that comes with it. By understanding these reasons, you'll see why the INFJ's reputation for decisiveness in this area is well earned, and why, once the door is shut, it stays shut. Reason number 1, self-protection from prolonged hurt. One of the biggest reasons INFJs never regret the door slam is that it's an act of self-protection. INFJs feel things deeply, and they invest a lot in their relationships. When they care about someone, they care completely, offering time, emotional support, and loyalty. But this depth of care also leaves them vulnerable to prolonged emotional pain if the other person repeatedly hurts or takes advantage of them. The INFJ is often willing to tolerate discomfort or misunderstanding in the short term if they believe the relationship can be healed. They'll have difficult conversations, make compromises, and look for ways to bridge differences. But when this effort is met with ongoing disrespect, dishonesty, or neglect, the emotional toll grows heavier. Every time they give another chance and the pattern repeats, it cuts a little deeper. This is why the door slam becomes necessary. It's not about punishing the other person, it's about stopping the cycle of hurt. By cutting off contact, the INFJ removes the source of the pain from their daily life. This creates the space they need to recover and rebuild their emotional health. Because they know the decision was made for their own well-being, they don't regret it. They can look back and see the clear before and after. Before the door slam, there was constant emotional strain. After, there is peace. Even if the peace comes with sadness, it's still preferable to the ongoing harm they experienced before. Some might argue that self-protection is selfish, but for INFJs, it's essential. They can't offer kindness or empathy to others if their own emotional reserves are depleted. By closing the door, they prevent further damage and give themselves the chance to restore their energy. This reason alone is powerful enough to remove regret. They have been through the worst part already, the repeated hurt, and choosing to end it is a form of self-respect that they stand by. Reason number 2, logical conclusion. after a slow fade. Another reason INFJs never regret the door slam is that it's the logical end to a long, slow process. From the outside, the door slam might seem sudden. But for the INFJ, it's the final step in a gradual withdrawal that has been happening for a long time. The process often starts with subtle emotional distancing. The INFJ may stop sharing personal details with the other person, limit their availability, or avoid situations where conflict is likely. This isn't done to be manipulative. It's their way of testing whether the relationship can survive with less energy invested. During this phase, the INFJ is watching closely. Are their boundaries respected? Does the other person notice the change and make an effort to reconnect? Or do the same problems keep resurfacing? Over time, the INFJ gathers enough evidence to confirm what they already suspect. The relationship is no longer healthy or fulfilling. By the time they reach the door slam, they've already mourned the loss. They have accepted that the bond they once valued isn't what it used to be. In many cases, they've tried multiple times to repair it, only to see the same patterns repeat. Because this process is so deliberate, there's no shock or sudden wave of doubt afterward. They've already thought through the consequences and made peace with them. When they close the door, it feels like the natural conclusion rather than a rash decision. This slow fade also serves another purpose. It allows the INFJ to detach emotionally before making the final cut. That way, when the door slam happens, they're less likely to be swayed by guilt or emotional pleas from the other person. They've already processed those feelings privately, and their mind is made up. This logical approach leaves little room for regret. They know they've exhausted every reasonable option, and that the decision wasn't made in haste. It's not about acting out of emotion, it's about following through on a conclusion that has been clear for a long time. Reason number 3, drawing a line for self-respect. For INFJs, self-respect isn't just a personal value, it's the foundation for how they navigate relationships. When they allow someone to continually cross boundaries, ignore their needs, or dismiss their feelings, it slowly erodes their sense of self-worth. The door slam becomes a way to reclaim that respect. In the early stages of a relationship, INFJs are often generous with their patience. They understand that people make mistakes, and they're willing to forgive and work through conflicts. But patience has a limit. When the same harmful behavior continues, despite repeated conversations or chances, the INFJ begins to feel that their boundaries are meaningless to the other person. This is when self-respect takes center stage. An INFJ who values themselves will not allow someone to keep them in a cycle of hurt. The door slam is a declaration: I will not accept treatment that undermines my dignity. Once this line is drawn, there's no going back. This firm stance is part of why regret rarely enters the picture. They can look back and see that the relationship had reached a point where staying would mean tolerating the unacceptable. Closing the door isn't about vengeance, it's about aligning their actions with their values. By taking decisive action, INFJs also reinforce their own inner boundaries. They remind themselves that they have the power to choose who gets access to their emotional world. This isn't just protective, it's empowering. Every time they uphold these standards, they strengthen their sense of identity and resilience. And because the decision comes from a place of integrity, not impulse, they feel confident in it even years later. The door slam becomes not just an act of ending a relationship, but a statement of self-worth that they will never regret making. Reason number 4, preserving inner peace and energy. One of the INFJ's most prized possessions is their inner peace. It's not easy to maintain, given their deep empathy and constant awareness of others' emotions, but it's essential to their well-being. Toxic or unbalanced relationships disturb this peace, draining their mental and emotional energy. INFJs often try to restore harmony before walking away. They may have multiple conversations, make compromises, and offer support to help the relationship improve. But if their efforts are met with hostility, indifference, or more chaos, their energy starts to slip away. They can feel it physically: fatigue, tension, and even difficulty focusing. When an INFJ reaches the point of a door slam, it's usually because they've realized that their peace is being consistently undermined. The relationship has become a source of stress rather than comfort, and they can no longer justify sacrificing their stability to keep it going. Once the door is closed, there's an immediate shift. Without the constant emotional pull or conflict, their mind feels clearer and their body feels lighter. Even if the separation is painful in the short term, the return of calm makes it worthwhile. This is why regret doesn't linger. The difference in their daily emotional climate is too significant to ignore. They can see how much more energy they have for healthy relationships, creative projects, and personal growth when they're not pouring themselves into something that drains them. In this way, the door slam isn't just about ending a relationship, it's about creating the conditions for a better quality of life. And once they've experienced that improvement, going back is never an option. Reason number 5, clear acceptance of reality. Over illusion, NFJs have a unique ability to see potential in people. They often believe in the best version of someone, even when that version is far from the reality they're showing. This hope can keep them invested in a relationship long past the point when others would have walked away. However, there comes a moment when the INFJ can no longer ignore the truth. They start to see the difference between who the person is and who they imagined they could be. This realization is bittersweet. It's the end of the ideal they once held, but it's also the beginning of freedom. The door slam represents full acceptance of that reality. It's saying, I see you as you are, without the illusions I once clung to, and I choose to let go. This acceptance removes the need to keep trying to force a change that will never come. Because the decision is grounded in truth rather than hope, there's no space for regret. They've already confronted the disappointment and mourned the loss of the ideal. What's left is clarity, a clear-eyed understanding that staying would mean living in denial. In many ways, this is the most liberating part of the door slam. It allows the INFJ to redirect their emotional energy toward people and situations that align with reality and reciprocity. Instead of pouring themselves into what could be, they invest in what is, and what genuinely supports their well-being. When they look back, they see the door slam not as the end of something good, but as the closing chapter of an illusion that kept them stuck. That clarity makes it almost impossible to regret the choice. Reason number 6, freedom to heal and rebuild. With clarity, perhaps the most powerful reason INFJs never regret the door slam is the freedom it brings to heal and rebuild their lives with clarity. When an unhealthy or draining relationship is still active, the INFJ's energy is often tied up in constant problem-solving, emotional management, and damage control. They may spend hours replaying conversations, trying to understand motives, or wondering if they could do something differently to fix the situation. Once the door slam happens, all that noise begins to fade. The emotional bandwidth that was once consumed by tension and uncertainty is suddenly available again. This creates space for healing, both mentally and physically. Stress levels drop, sleep improves, and they have more energy to focus on their own needs and goals. Healing isn't just about rest, it's also about clarity. With distance, the INFJ can look back on the relationship with a more objective perspective. They see patterns they might have missed before, recognize where their boundaries were ignored, and understand how the dynamic affected their sense of self. This self-awareness is invaluable for preventing similar situations in the future. This freedom also allows them to rebuild their life intentionally. They can choose relationships, environments, and activities that nourish rather than drain them. The lessons learned from the experience become part of their inner compass, guiding them toward healthier connections. Because the door slam creates such a dramatic shift from chaos to calm, regret rarely enters the picture. Even if there are moments of nostalgia or sadness, they are outweighed by the sense of relief and empowerment that comes with reclaiming control over their life. The INFJ knows that without closing that door, they wouldn't have the space to grow into this new chapter. For them, the door slam isn't just an ending, it's the start of something far better. And that knowledge is what makes it a decision they can stand by without hesitation. The INFJ's door slam feels clean because it aligns every part of their decision-making process, intuition, emotion, and logic. They have seen the truth, felt the impact, and reasoned through the consequences long before acting. By the time they close the door, there's no inner conflict left to resolve. This harmony between heart and mind means the choice feels final and right. The lack of lingering doubt is what makes the decision so unshakable, and why they can move forward without looking back. The INFJ door slam is never impulsive, and that's why it's free of regret. Protecting peace, honoring self-respect, and choosing truth over illusion. These are choices worth making. Once the door closes, the future opens wide, ready for renewal.